I'm Don. It's late. I'm up. Yo! How are you guys tonight? I am good. Thank you for asking. I assume you asked. You usually ask. That seems like something you would do. Let's get that a little tighter. There we go. That looks better. Tonight we'll be watching the Sylvester Stallone classic, First Blood. This movie's amazing. I'm a fan of it. This is the one that made me kind of take interest in Stallone and follow his career. I wasn't as big of a Rocky guy as everybody else. This is the one that got me. This and Death Race 2000, right? Can't go wrong with those. But anyways, tonight we'll be watching this on AMC Plus. It's pretty dang awesome. I haven't seen it in a while, but it's one I've seen so many dang times that I know everything. So I know everything. That should be on my tombstone. I know everything about it. So we'll give a good watch. We'll discuss the alternate ending. We'll discuss the book. We'll discuss Sly and his career. We'll talk Brian Dennehy, Richard Crenna. We'll talk all the awesomeness. Located in the pinned chat message or whatever is the Night Owl Movie Talk Registry. So if you'd like to get something for our baby that is on the way and should be here any day now, I appreciate that. So thank you for those of you who have participated in that. The baby will be very blessed by her internet family. Let's see, Sarah is here. Saw the link to the Baby Owl Registry. You have some cute books coming Friday. Thank you so much. That is incredibly sweet of you. See what I mean? My internet friends and people have been so kind and accommodating to the new baby. So little Lily will come into the world with a lot of aunties and uncles all over the world, and I appreciate it very much. Don Zombie, First Hoot. Hoot, hoot. Yeah, this is kind of a weird one. It's First Blood. It was First Blood my whole life. That was the main thing it was called. And then because of living in a streaming world with search engines and things, a lot of times now this is Rambo : First Blood. I'm assuming because so many people were searching for Rambo movies, they often skipped First Blood, or maybe back even in the video store cataloging days, First Blood would be back in the Fs, while Rambo and Rambo 3 would be off in the Rs. Anyways, enough of me rambling how the alphabet works. I'm going to go ahead and start this movie. We're going to give it a watch because it's awesome. Let's see here. Patrick, Have Cheetah Will View says, feathers up. Squawk. You drew First Blood, not me. America. Anyways, let's go ahead and press play on this bad boy. They got all sorts of cataloging issues with this as well. Let me see. Let me back out and look here. Sheesh. Yeah, AMC Plus has this listed as Rambo First Blood Part 2, but it's Part 1. It's 1982, 127 minutes, hour and 27 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and press play on this right now. 3, 2, 1, play. AMC presents. There we go. We'll get started with this train running on time tonight. This is kind of your, I don't know if the term is actually a term, but a thinking man's action movie or thinking person's action movie. Andrew Vagina presents, LOL. Shout out to him, thinking out of the box. This one is a thinking person's action movie. It's more, it's bizarre. It's basically like a Deer Hunter ripoff or some type of thing about the traumas of a Vietnam War, coming home, things like that. But then because of the era it came out, it was sort of post like Vietnam backlash, and it was more like into the up and coming, proud, American patriotism sort of movement thing. So this character belongs to the 70s in those movies, but then the next two that come out belong to the 80s. They're like almost completely different films. They don't feel like they're connected in a weird way, other than the character who goes from being this troubled veteran with PTSD to like this badass who's just out here murdering everybody in his sight. Rambo is essentially Michael Myers without the mask, except he's a good guy. He's like the Stone Cold Steve Austin of slashers. Patrick says, shouts for the Hobbs and Bones. Yeah, Midnight Hour crew. Nice to always part of the Owl family, always part of the Boglin crew. I love to represent them homes. This is my favorite Rambo film. Yeah, easily mine too. This one starts off nice and slow. That's the beauty of it. A normal movie like this, with this story and everything made nowadays, Rambo would be getting off the plane from the war. He'd like stop some sort of terrorist attack, maybe rescue a stewardess or whatever, flight attendant. And then, the credits would roll, and then we'd go into this whole thing with him walking to go find his old war buddy. But the movie starts off slow and kind of thoughtful and sad, and that's how the first act is supposed to be. That's kind of the beauty of this, is that, you know, the movie itself sort of follows Rambo. You know, the first act is just this guy out walking around trying to go find his old war buddies, and it's sad. They've all died from, you know, Agent Orange and everything. And then by the time he gets arrested and, you know, we learn that this guy is a little more than he seems, then the second act starts, and that's when it gets crazy. So when the second act starts, we'll discuss that. But right now here, he's going to see his old war buddy. He meets his mother and his sister, and he's, you know, talking about the little things they would say to each other in the war, how they were going to go back home and ride around in the big Cadillac. And he shows her his mom a picture. See, that's us. Delmar. David Morrell killed Rambo and refused to write him alive again. Yeah, that's, like I say, this first movie, or, you know, the book itself, is a thing about it's really about the culture. Rambo is, you know, representative of society pre-Vietnam or even during Vietnam, and a lot of the opposition to the war and how people went anyways just to be good Americans, and the folks back home turned on them and acted like they were making the decisions and called them baby killers and all this terrible stuff. So just this huge culture thing that's, you know, talked about in a lot of movies in the 70s, the backlash to Vietnam. So this one, yeah, it feels a little late, but the message is more about, you know, what the people in Washington have done to a generation of, you know, post-60s love child crowd, you know, the 70s disco crowd. You know, what happened to him because of this war. And I think this is Stallone, you know, like I say, a lot of people love Rocky, and Rocky's where he got famous. But this, to me, is where I really recognized him as an actor. Like, he just kind of seemed like a beefy dolt in the Rocky movies, especially 1 and 2. But you know, this one is where he's starting to thin up and get the signature Stallone cheekbones and everything. Patrick says, Teasel buys the farm as well, if I remember right. Yeah, I don't remember what happens to Teasel in it. We'll talk about it at the end, I'm sure. But in the original ending, well, in the book, I believe, Teasel shoots Rambo while he's on his big destroying the town thing. And then, what's his name? Richard Crenna. I can't think of his name. Richard Crenna shows up, and then he's the one that ends up shooting Rambo to put him out of his misery. And it's kind of a, you know, mad scientist has to kill his own creation sort of thing. You know, the government has to come and take care of the problem they created by, you know, creating a monster like Rambo, you know. So, and then in the movie, as I recall, Rambo wants to commit suicide, and he ends up taking, what the hell is his name? What is Richard Crenna's name? Troutman. I was drawing a blank. Thank you. You'll have to forgive me. He takes Troutman's gun and puts it in his belly, and then kind of dares him to shoot him or something, and then he ends up tussling and ends up getting shot by Troutman that way. They filmed the put him out of his misery scene, I think, for the movie, but the test audiences hated it. Nobody was having that. And because of that, they kept the Rambo character alive and were able to make 2 more movies plus, 3, right? No, 4, because he goes to Mexico. Damn, I can't even keep track. See, I still think of these as the original just 3 Rambos, but then when they come back with Rambo again, where he's goes back to, Vietnam, that one's a good one in the early thousands. John Rambo, I think it's called. But I never saw the one where he's in Mexico. Last Blood, I think that one might be, cleverly. So here's Dennehy. Dennehy rides up on Stallone, and it's kind of, this sets the tone for the movie, right? Like, sort of this smug cop bullying this dude around, expecting him to, you know, do what he says, respect my authority. But Stallone, you know, he's his own man at this point. He's just wandering the world looking for some sort of mental peace. And I like that we get to see the mountains around the town, and, you know, you get a feel for the small town that this is in. Dennehy and Stallone here in the car talking right up front. You know, whereas Dennehy's trying to be kind of half nice, but he's also trying to get this dude out of town because he doesn't want any trouble. Dennehy's awesome in this. He's fantastic. So is Crenna. So's Stallone. You know, this is one of Stallone's strong suit, is playing the strong silent type. You know, he's got stuff on his mind, but he's not real good at speaking. So his best not give Sly too many, long dialogue speeches or anything. He has a soliloquy at the end where he's emotional and crying, and that's kind of the highlight of the film. But other than that, he's just sort of a crazy psychopath with a crazy stare. Dolt, right? Rambo 3 is pretty cool as well. Rambo 3, I saw it in the theater. I remember even as a child thinking that, it kind of jumped the shark at that point. When, is it 2 or 3 where he kills the helicopter with a bow and arrow? So here we see him, leaving Twin Peaks. And, as soon as Stallone gets out of the car, Rambo, is walking away doing his Bill Bixby Incredible Hulk hitchhiker thing. And then he kind of feels like, you know what? I'm not going to let this jerk boss me around. I'm going to go back. And he turns around and starts walking back. And that's all the crime he commits. Is just he's not really going to let this dude without the authority to boss him around. And then just as Teasel drives off, the thunder rumbles. Kind of a heavy-handed way of letting you know some stuff's about to go down, but still pretty awesome. This movie isn't shot like beautiful Hollywood type movie, but I like the way it looks. Like, it's not well lit, over the top. It doesn't have, a big cinematic look to it. But like the shots themselves feel real. This rainy mountain town. So there, Stallone comes turning around and walking back, and Dennehy's like, it's on, bro. He uses RPG in part 2. Oh, the rocket power grenade thing? Yeah. 3 is the one where he kills the helicopter. Okay. 3 has become internet controversy over the last, couple decades. A lot of, the movie itself is about Rambo going to Afghanistan and helping the people of Afghanistan try to force the Soviets that were there at the time out. Because of that conflict, things like the Taliban arose. Because of at the end of the movie in part 3, it says the film is dedicated to the proud people of Afghanistan. But internet folks doctored some stuff and, posted some things. And a lot of folks became under the assumption that the movie was dedicated to the proud members of the Mujahideen or the proud members of the Taliban or whatever. And it's just, the actual ending says the proud people of Afghanistan or whatever. So there's the knife. He's digging around, he's patting down Stallone, getting ready to arrest him, and he finds the big knife. The knife is kind of an interesting character in this because it's basically his Wilson. Like, he doesn't really have nobody to talk to. So the only time Stallone really gets to like emote once he's out in the woods is, sorry, it threw me off. AMC does this. They fade to black all the time. I'm assuming AMC Plus must use the same cut that they use for television or for people who have the commercial plan or whatever. So every time I watch a movie on AMC, I'm thrown off because there's going to be about, 6 or 7 fade to blacks out of nowhere. So just now, Stallone got arrested, and there was a fade to black before we opened back up at the police station. An alternate cut. There's Caruso. As I was saying, the knife itself. The knife is kind of his Wilson. Like, Stallone doesn't have any company when he's out in the woods. It's just him. So until Troutman shows up, it's, occasional walkie-talkie chatter, but the knife kind of becomes his sidekick. And it's also sort of the, one of the big starts of the survivalist movement, all you need is a knife and some fishing line and you can figure everything else out yourself. Horatio Caine was a cop there before moving to Miami. Horatio Caine was a cop in here? Oh, the dude from, Caruso. Yeah, I forget his name's Horatio Caine. I never really watched CSI that much. Sorry. You should have did Over the Top. Over the Top. That's a horrible movie. No, I like Over the Top because of its cheesiness, but at the same time, it's so ridiculous. Every now and then you have to stop and laugh at the absurdity of it. When the one dude says he likes to arm wrestle people so he can break their arms. I like to break their arms. I like to maim them. I'm going to cripple them. It's like, well, you take arm wrestling too seriously, my friend. No. Yeah, nobody likes Over the Top. Oh, no, Over the Top, please. I don't know. It's got a Jam and Kenny Loggins soundtrack. We might have to watch that one sometime because I like to do movies with professional wrestlers in it, and Terry Funk being in that one is part of the charm of that film. So here's Caruso as the aforementioned Horatio. At this time, he's just starting out. You know, he kind of middles in Hollywood and does a bunch of sort of just, second tier stuff. He's in, King of New York and, I don't know, a handful of other things he turns up in. But then he gets on that show, what was he on? NYPD Blue? Was that him? He was on one of them ABC cop shows. And he became like this big deal on there, and he left the show to become a Hollywood star, and then his Hollywood career kind of flopped, and he had to crawl back to television. And that was when television was second tier. You're either a movie star or a television star. Now it doesn't matter. The series that are on are so good that, the Meryl Streeps of the world have no problem doing a streaming series. But back then, if you did TV, that meant you were a second tier actor. So people like George Clooney, who left TV to go on to be a movie star and succeeded. I remember when Batman came out, Batman and Robin, and it flopped. Clooney was under the impression that he was going to be a David Caruso and have to go back to ER. His career would be failed. So here he's fighting with the damn police. They're trying to fingerprint him, and you can actually get a feel for how short Stallone is here. Normally, we don't see Stallone looking smaller. Like right now, he's the smallest guy in this scene. Dennehy's like towering over him. Normally, they shoot Stallone to be, big, giant muscle guy, similar to Schwarzenegger. Schwarzenegger's, I don't know, 6'3" or 6'4". He's like huge. Stallone's like 5'4", 5'5". Are you watching Rambo with him, Patrick? Oh, everyone's watching Rambo with me. He was on NYPD, but he kicked ass on Miami, CSI Miami. Yeah, see, the thing with CSI Miami is every episode started with the bad pun. And I love a bad pun, so you'd think I'd like it, but no, it just never really hooked for me. So here Rambo takes off his shirt. They're going to clean him up, hose him down, and we see that he's got all these crazy scars on his back. We're unraveling the mystery of this man. Like I mentioned, the second act is where this movie really gets going. Because in the first act, we see Stallone just trying to mind his own business. He's quiet. If they would have left him alone, there'd be no problem. But then in the second act, the story turns. He becomes the one in charge, in power. He gets out in his environment, and it asks a lot of the audience to say, all right, here's a psychopath in the woods with a knife up against local, organized law enforcement, and we're rooting for the psychopath with a knife. That kind of made a joke before about him being Michael Myers. It's sort of true, that this dude is a criminal by the, by the books, I should say, but because we know the backstory. Like if this movie was told in a Tarantino style and it opened up with these cops hunting this dude in the woods, it would be a completely different movie. Because we see the build-up and all this, how they're treating him and everything. We're on his side. And then the third act just becomes this crazy fireworks explosion, 4th of July. Here's where the cop, what is dude's name? He's played by Jack Starrett. Arthur Galt, that's the one that gets shot later in the helicopter. He's the one who's like the main bully. He loves bullying Stallone and hitting him with the nightstick and everything. So here's the part where he's got Stallone by the neck and they're going to shave him and he's having the PTSD flashbacks to Vietnam. And you kind of get a feeling like it's almost like a Jack in the Box. Like we know something's going to happen because we've seen the trailer. So when Stallone has just got this terrified look on his face, he's doing a great job of acting. Wow, yeah. So here's where he beats everybody up and escapes. And this is kind of the classic escape scene. I like when he steals the motorbike from the dude, the motocross deal. And he's riding down the street yelling at folks to get out of his way. When he's telling people to get out of his way, that's part of the reason part of the way we know he's a good guy still. Like I say, right now he's beating up 3 cops. He's supposed to be the bad guy. We're supposed to be against him. And he's beating the hell out of him, too. But it's good. The fighting looks real. It doesn't look like some Bourne Identity, fake judo stuff or whatever. It's believable that Stallone, a smaller dude, would beat the hell out of all these guys like this. So many mustaches. If you were a cop in the 80s and you didn't have a mustache, you got fired. So in this escapes, Stallone has managed to throw 2 dudes through windows, kick 2 dudes in the chest, and an old lady, oh, there's another dude who got kicked and elbowed. And then he kind of asked like a random stander by, like, you want some? He's like, no, I'm good. Yeah, I love that this takes place in Twin Peaks. You know, there's this like foggy mountain behind him with all these snow caps and stuff. It adds to the story. Oh, let's see here. A new shark movie? Sweet. What new shark movie? Oh, the jumping the shark thing. There's a new Insidious trailer. It has the further looks freaky. Yeah, I enjoy the Insidious franchise. I've only seen the first 2, but I'd like to check out more. They kind of get run together in my mind with the Conjurings and that whole thing. So here's the chase scene. And this is a super real chase scene. Like, you know, this isn't, some sort of Bruckheimer, although you could clearly see that was a stunt double riding that motorcycle there. This isn't, like a Bruckheimer big deal action scene where, he's running over fruit carts and whatnot. That was kind of ridiculous, where he jumped the motorcycle over the railroad track, and it was like the big, looked like a ad for X Games. Once again, clearly not Stallone on the bike. He did a wheelie there to cover up his face with the handlebars. Nice. The most egregious offender of this is Invasion USA with Chuck Norris. There's a part where he's hanging onto a truck, riding through a mall. And every time they cut to Chuck Norris, you can clearly tell it's not Chuck Norris. It's just a redheaded guy with a beard. Anyways, rest in peace, Chuck Norris. Brian Dennehy has a really big face. A lot of women like a man with a big face. I don't know what that means. Thanks for Stacy enjoying the TV show Claws. This takes place in the Manatee, Florida. I don't think I've ever seen Claws. I know what it is. Isn't that, what's her name, Niecy, whatever? And it's all about the nail ladies. New Eli Roth Ice Cream Man. The Ice Cream Man turns kids into little demons. That looks interesting. I'd be interested in checking that out. I usually like Eli Roth stuff, or at least see it. He's gone wrong a few places here and there. That Death Wish remake was awful. I never watched Hemlock Grove or whatever it was called, but I enjoyed the 2 Hostel movies and Cabin Fever. So he's kind of been riding that wave ever since with me. What happened to a black friend at the beginning and why he no internet then? Yeah, that's what I'm guessing is, he died from the Agent Orange. I'm like everybody else, they spread this stuff on us, man. Stallone as the troubled vet he does that well in this. So now we're up into the mountains. The chase has gotten us away from the little small town. And Stallone on the motocross. This was also a big motocross era. A lot of folks were into these type of bikes at this time. So had to throw that in to punch get the audience numbers up. I love a good motocross movie. So there's where he gets the police car, it slides down the hill and flips over eventually. And it's so real looking. Like it almost looks like an accident. Like it doesn't look like a planned stunt. And there's Dennehy, climbing out of the car. Dennehy, I like that the cops aren't quite, they're not fit. They're not up to Stallone's standards. So it's a fair fight. It's like, the 3 kind of doughy, donut-eating cops versus Stallone, who, now that we see him in, the sleeveless shirt, he's all jacked and stuff. This is more Rocky 3 Stallone. Rocky 1 and Rocky 2, he's kind of doughy and beefy. That's his thing. He has no business being in the ring with an Adonis like Apollo Creed. But then by part 3, he's the Adonis. And this is where he starts to get that crazy Stallone Adonis body with the abs and stuff. HGH. I expect, back then it was probably just regular old steroids. What do you like better, Oscar or Nighthawks? Oh, I like Nighthawks way better. The ending of Nighthawks is crazy, but yeah, Oscar itself, I remember when it came out, that was when Stallone was at the height of his, kind of his powers, and he'd had a bunch of hits, Tango and Cash and things besides Rambo and First Blood that had done well. But yeah, Oscar was a major flop. How ironic it was called Oscar. Let's see here. Excited for the new Pippi Longstocking announcement. Yeah, I didn't know they were making a new Pippi Longstocking. That one when I was a kid and that came out in the early 80s was very popular, the live action one. But that girl looked a little bit too much like Wendy from Wendy's. It seems like Wendy and the Wendy's people and the Pippi Longstocking people would have to have a long talk about copyright infringement. So now Dennehy walks out of the woods all defeated. Rambo's in a cave. And we're getting ready to start this second act. Let's see what time we're at here. Timestamp 22:40 and there's an hour and 10 left. So, yep, that's about right. You know, we're on pace here. Like I said, the second act is when it gets really interesting to me because now this becomes, we're rooting for who is traditionally the bad guy. You know, we're on the side of the nutcase in the woods with the knife. So here we see him making clothes. He finds an old tarp and makes a poncho out of it. I want to know where this beautiful waterfalls and stuff is there. I need to go and get a spring water facility started there. Probably big money. You need to check out Ross Thanksgiving if you ain't seen it, Don. Not familiar with it. I used to do a show with a friend of the channel, the Horror Cat Dad, Into House. The catalog is still available on the Night Owl Movie Talk as well as the Horror Cat Dad's YouTube page. But on that show, I did a review for Thanksgiving talking about, well, the first week I said I wasn't sure I was going to like it because I heard too many good things about it and I think I'm going to be poisoned by it. And the next week I watched it, gave the review, said, yep, didn't really like it. Lost like 11 subscribers in 5 minutes. Like, oh, apparently Eli Roth is very big. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to offend you all. I'm just saying. I enjoyed Hostel better. Get off my nuts. Did Jimmy, Cammy, and Sly get along? I don't know. It's a good question. What machine can stop him? Johnny 5? I would be interested in that. Howling reboot announcement at Cinecon 2, a day long Caesar's Palace Day. I knew Cinecon was going on. I didn't know there was a Howling reboot. I'm glad. One of the things we often do on this channel is watch werewolf movies together. I'm a big fan of the genre. Nothing better than a good werewolf movie on the full moon. So I'm one of the first people to point out the werewolf genre, although plentiful, isn't very good. There's a handful of winners and a whole bunch of bad ones. So if they would throw the effort at making a good werewolf movie, I'd be into it. So now here we see the cops kind of traipsing their silly asses up into the woods, and you can see they're out of their element, and that's part of the charm of it. Like, okay, back when we were at the police station, we were the ones tying him up and holding him down. Now that we're out here, this is all his territory. Well, Shat. I remember those ones. Would Sly have been a good Wolverine? Sly probably would have been an awesome Wolverine, as short as he is. I don't know if he would admit to the short thing. That's the thing with Sly, is a lot of the big Hollywood stars, pardon the pun, they're little people, you know? Tom Cruise, Antonio Banderas, Sly Stallone, you know, to actually get like a 6-foot Hollywood star is very rare. So they shoot them, you know, low angle, powerfully. They, you know, put them on apple boxes and have them stand there. So they'll be eye to eye with their love interests. So I don't know if Stallone would fess up to being shorter. But yeah, he would have been badass, especially here where he's got kind of the long, shaggy hair and he's kind of got that stocky build. And then this is a good bit of business too. I like this, where he's trying to rappel from the down the side of this cliff, and he doesn't have any ropes or anything. And they start shooting at him, and he falls, and he gets cut up by trees, and he has to go do self-surgery on himself and everything. But the key to the trees, it's like he doesn't get shot. He doesn't have some big, crazy, outrageous where he jumps to the helicopter and it explodes, then he has to dive into a cave before the fire gets to... There's none of that shit. He slides down this thing, which is dangerous enough. Nobody wants to do it. They start shooting at him. He falls in the trees. The trees cut him up. Then we see he's, badass enough to do his own stitches. I was talking about the cinematography before. It's not, your traditional, it doesn't look like a Steven Spielberg movie. It's a big 1.85, the extra, Panavision, widescreen. It's got the letterboxes even on my 16:9 TV, which helps. You know, that's what made Halloween so, I don't know, artsy. So here's the famous scene where the cop in the helicopter is shooting at him, and then he ends up throwing the rock or whatever, and dude dies. And then even as the audience, he's killed a cop, but really he didn't kill a cop. It was all an accident, and that cop shouldn't have been such a jerk anyways, and he's disobeying the helicopter guy who's like, we need to land. He was asking for it is what I'm saying. If you don't fly this thing right, I swear to God, I'll kill you myself. Which is a good line because it makes the dude extra evil, and it also tells us these cops are sort of like got their own, you know, they answer to nobody but themselves. I saw this on syndicated TV once on a Saturday. It was fun. Yeah, this was, I remember this was at the theater. This was about the age when I started paying attention to movies at the cinema and stuff. I never saw it at the theater. We had a predecessor to cable back then. It was called On TV. And it was basically just like a cable box, but it only got like 1 or 2 channels, I think 1. And you would, you know, put it on like a video game. You'd go to channel 3 and press a thing and turn the knob on, and you could watch movies in your house. And I remember this being a big deal on TV. This and For Your Eyes Only were huge. So I watched this a ton on TV. And then later on, when cable became huge, I watched it a bunch then. And then this was, you know, always a late night or middle of the night flipping through channels. First Blood's on. Like, oh, shit, well, I got to at least watch the part where he jumps out of the woods. This whole part where he like sets up traps and the booby traps and stuff in the woods. As a kid, I loved all this. As a grown man, I'm more like, oh, this poor dude, you know, how are you going to win a fight with the cops? Even if he kills them all, then he killed a bunch of cops and he has to go to prison for that. There's just like no winning this situation for him. The cheetah would have dragged out of that chopper. Yeah, the cheetah. Get out of the chopper. Doc Hollywood, underrated. Michael J. Fox? Yeah, I enjoy Michael J. Fox. Doc Hollywood was another one that was on, you know, cable so much. I just saw it a bajillion times. Michael J. Fox had a moment there in the late 80s, early 90s where he was just everywhere. So there's where the cop falls. You can clearly tell it's not him. And he where he falls is obscured. It's a nice long fall, but he drops behind some bushes. There's clearly, you know, the airbag back there and all that. But as far as stunts go, these all look real. They're not glossy and fake, absurd, Fast and the Furious thing, you know. I'm going to drive this car off this cliff and crash it into that helicopter. I don't know why every idiot has a crazy southern accent to me. I think that tells about the people I deal with. So now here he steals the cop's jacket and some of his supplies. You know, like any hero, he's robbing a corpse. That's why I love this movie so much, is it's not your traditional hero. You know, these are things that a lot of times you would probably, you know, alter in the script. Like, well, he can't rob a dead man's corpse. Yeah, dude was a jerk. Deserves to have his coat took. Just that shot, the big, high, wide shot of the cop, just a blood stain on a rock. That's what I mean. This movie turns into basically a slasher movie for the next, you know, hour now. It's just going to be Stallone killing cops with a knife. Yikes. Writing characters for TV, showrunners often have interview questions for their characters, get to know them better and get more fleshed out. Yeah, I mean, especially with TV, I would think you would have to. You know, for a movie, you can kind of expect the actor to just sort of work with what the, you know, hey, it's in the novel, what do you want? But when you're growing a TV show and it's like a living thing that's going to alter and go through different writers and, you know, stages of stagnant storytelling, so you got to infuse new life into the story, all that, it's good to have that type of writing in there, I would say for sure. So here's where Stallone is stitching himself up, and as the audience, we're just like, you know, super shocked that this dude is that badass that he would, you know, be able to sew himself up like he was a pair of ripped jeans. And then I think it's part 2 or part 3 where he gets like shot and then he has to cauterize his own wound in the cave. I think that's part 2 or part 3. I don't remember. 2 and 3 run together to me because they're absurd. let's see, what is the Rambo films? Let's see, make sure I've seen them all. Chronological time order. So they are, I had heard they're making a movie called John Rambo, but they already made a movie called Rambo. But, yeah, let me look at this. Plot unknown, prequel to the movie First Blood, 1982, following John Rambo's early years as Green Beret during the Vietnam War. Writer Rory Haynes and Sohrab Nashavarani. Interesting. I don't know. There's also an Indian Rambo. So maybe this is that. Yeah, that's probably what that is. But anyways, the big ones are First Blood was the first one, then Rambo Rambo First Blood Part 2, and then Rambo 3. And you can see him getting bigger in the posters, like his shoulders and stuff. The steroids are really working. And then, yeah, Part 5 was Rambo. I liked that one. I thought it was surprisingly good. And then Part 6, Rambo Last Blood, I never saw. Actually, why do I have this rated so low? Why are you doing that to yourself? So here's Caruso and Dennehy arguing, and Caruso's basically just telling him, like, you're dumb. What are we doing with this guy? Call the feds or whatever. Let's go back to the cabin and have some hot cocoa. And I don't blame him. I would probably be on the same stuff. This movie was a huge success. That's part of the reason that they made a couple more after this. And then there was also a cartoon series. I remember in the, late 80s, they made action figures. There was a video game or two. But the budget on this one was between 14 and 15 million. And then it made 125 million. And the thing that got me is, like, roughly 78 million is foreign. Like I say, this first one is almost an anti-American movie. It's, look at the ripple effects of what happened after the Vietnam War and a whole generation of, bad economic policy and a variety of other things. And then Part 2 and 3 are more like, America, F yeah, thus the hat. So now we got the dogs. We did the weird AMC fade to black thing, like a commercial was coming, but it didn't. And now the cops are out wandering around in the woods, and they got their little plastic covers on their cowboy hats, which makes them look just sort of extra frilly and silly. Stallone's out here in a cut-up poncho he made himself with knife and twine, and these guys got cowboy hats with little plastic beanies over the top of it because you don't want the suede on your sheriff cap to get messed up. I got sheriffing to do. So here we see the first of the traps. Like I say, this whole segment here where Stallone is out alone in the woods and he's got all these, booby traps. And here he ends up, they have a dummy set up and they let the dogs go, and the dog goes and attacks the dummy, and we hear the dog get killed. What kind of movie asks you to root for a guy who stabs dogs? But once again, it's like, well, he's the hero. Why is that big dog trying to bite him? And there's where the cops learn that Rambo's got a gun. It's not him, it's goddamn Scarecrow. Why don't you just get Bill Paxton in there? That would be awesome. Lots of dealings with First Blood author. I had to take him to task for saying he wasn't invited to the premiere, yet he was. He wanted more tickets for premiere, but he himself and 3 others were invited. Really? Oh, what was his name? No, that's not what I'm looking for. David Morrell, that's it. I couldn't think of the dude's name. Yeah, he's had issues with this. I didn't know he was problematic regarding wanting tickets for the movie and everything. He's had disagreements with the producers and everything over the turn of the character. Like I say, his envisioning was that this was a character that was emblematic of the problems with America, not emblematic as like the American spirit of might makes right and world police and everything. Ben says he used to love the Rambo cartoon. Yeah, I can't remember, what was the thing? It was like Rambo and what's it called? Freedom Force or something? Rambo cartoon. The Force of Freedom. There you go. Rambo and the Force of Freedom. Does it say how many episodes it was? It was based on the comic book, actually. I forgot they even made a comic book first. And then I know they made some action figures for it, because I had the Rambo itself. But then, much like Mr. T and Captain Planet, a bunch of these, a lot of the like plot of a cartoon show would be, we have this celebrity character, and then we just have like a regular, usually kids around them. You know, of course, Mr. T is like the bodyguard for a gymnastics team that solves mysteries, like Scooby-Doo. You know, same with Forces of Freedom or whatever. It's like, why? Too many oddball background people. Chuck Norris has also had a cartoon around that time. So did RoboCop. They were looking to get any cartoon franchises going at that point. So all this, now here's the cops. We're going to each individual cop. And this is just a straight up horror movie. They're walking around hoping they don't get murdered. And I think this is the part where Dennehy is kind of just creeping along, and Rambo pops up with like all the weeds and stuff on his back and holds the knife up to him and explains to him, like, get out of here. Leave me alone. And if he would listen to him once again, this whole thing would be fine. But they won't. They won't take Sly at his word. Ben says, yeah, it's a Bollywood remake. I wondered. I'm not surprised. Rambo is kind of a generic word, and I don't know if anybody over there probably has a copy written. The cartoon was cool. I saw it on YouTube as a young girl. And I'm like, what's up with him? I like the song, Rambo, the Force of Freedom. Yeah, when I just Googled that show now, I see that the cartoons are on YouTube. You can find them. Would Patrick Cheetah be a good Rambo villain or a good Last Action Hero style movie villain? Patrick Cheetah, yeah, he would definitely be more Last Action, like more of a Charles Dance kind of guy. I don't know. I always think of Patrick as like he would be the slick guy. You know, he almost like a verbal Kent Kaiser Soze kind of deal. Patrick would just, I'm just a nice guy. You know, I got a beard and a baseball cap and some cats. I like movies. I mean, really, he's like, pulled off another one. Speaking of Have Cheetah Will View, make sure to check out his channel. He's a fantastic creator. I love me some Patrick, as well as Mr. Bones. I saw us floating around here. Our buddy Ben Grimm up all night. Ben's my fave. He's always here for me in the middle of the night. He, once again, another person who gets it. It's just sometimes you can't sleep, and the best way to solve that is watch a movie, preferably something awesome. Ben up for the Sly role in a movie soon, maybe. I would hope so. So, yeah, this is all, reminded me a lot of Southern Comfort. That's another one with people traipsing around in the woods, fighting with, traps and whatnot. So now he's getting the cops to shoot each other. He's got crossfire confusion. Rambo's just messing with him. Now the old buddy runs into the boar trap, and he gets a bunch of spikes in his legs. Basically, Rambo is just beating the crap out of these poor, stupid, unprepared cops. And it's, subversive and awesome that as an audience, that's what we're rooting for. Yeah, hope that killer gets away. I work overnight. Oh, you do? Okay, yeah. See, to me, I have a whole life, can't sleep, watch tons of movies. Moved around a lot, so by the time I'd make new friends, I'd already seen a couple hundred new movies wherever I lived. So here, the cops are just sort of defeated. They're almost at an all is lost point. We're at the 41:22 mark. I should put on Watch with X-Ray. Let's see what this is. There we go. The breakdown. Richard Crenna on the X-Ray. For those of you not familiar, if you watch things on IMDb, you can press a button and it'll tell you like the actors and give them little things, and you can click on it and it'll tell little trivia things as they pop up and stuff. So Richard Crenna's mustache and his headshot for his little thing. So there's where Stallone, we get to see him. He's been like kind of an unhinged, sort of quiet weirdo. And now here's the first time he's control and has power. He's all covered in mud like Stallone and Predator. And he's got the knife all up against against Dennehy's neck. And he's like, leave it alone. And it's like good acting. Like you believe that this psychopath is out there traipsing around and will get you. And Denny has the little breakdown. I love that. Like after Stallone lets him go, he sort of crumbles to the ground and cries a little bit and rethinks his life. Do I really want to be out here messing with John Rambo in the woods? It's not what I need to do. So we did the weird AMC fade to black thing now, and we see this is a full-blown like police event. You know, there's ambulances everywhere. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, good 20 cops. We got the military's here now. So that was an effective fade to black. The whole military had time to get here. And this is when Troutman starts to show up, and he's got the beret on. He looks all extra crispy. Greg Brewer, welcome, my friend. Greg, you a fan of First Blood or the Rambo series? I don't understand people that go to CinemaCon and don't stay at the Caesars and get reservations for next year. Now, yeah, I am jealous of anybody who can go to CinemaCon. I'd like to check it out sometime. For those of you who don't know, CinemaCon, it's where they sort of preview stuff for next year or the upcoming year. And basically, it's a way for big studios to get people interested in what they're doing so they can get investors and sell stock, etc. Get people hyped for stuff coming up. So that's why Stacy was breaking some news for us there about some various things coming out. So now here we see a local police reporter. I kind of like this where we cut to this dude who we haven't met all movie, and we just see it through like the media's eyes. And it's a full-on military like invasion. They got tents from MASH here and shit. I don't know if you would get that many folks. Like, I mean, they literally got like 25 National Guardmen and a good 50 cops. I don't know if you would get that much help. So there we're talking about the cops are starting to get scared. You know, they're admitting that Galt was a little hard on the guy, and maybe they did that. And Dennehy's explaining he don't care because Dennehy's basically like the president. He's Richard Nixon in this. You know, the people don't care, want the war. I don't care. I'm in charge. They do what I say. You know, this movie or the story itself is supposed to be referring to a political, you know, an era in the society, you know, cultural war kind of thing. And then the story itself later on evolves into this whole America F yeah kind of thing. So now here's Troutman, like, the Army didn't make Rambo, I did. Sam Troutman. And like I say, he is crispy. It looks like he just got everything dry cleaned before he showed up. He's got his little beret on. And I love Crenna's performance in this. He's like such a condescending jerk the whole movie. Like that's kind of Crenna's, you know, that's his bread and butter. That's what Richard Crenna do. But he's good at the mic drop statement. Like where Richard Crenna will tell you some stuff and give you a look like, and what do you think about that? Have I seen Without Warning? I don't think I have. Without Warning. Have I? It is a 1980 or the 1994 movie. I'm assuming you're talking about the 1980 horror movie. Sandy and Greggs are teenagers who go camping despite warnings not to and their friends, and they encounter aliens? Ooh, I'm interested in that. So yeah, here's where this is really well done exposition, and that's part of the reason I like this whole Troutman stuff. It's like we need an explanation of who this Rambo dude is. You know, he's seems like a crazy homeless guy, and then now they beat him up, and we realize no, he's something else. So then Troutman shows up, and he kind of gives us, "You idiots, here's why you're dumb. Let me explain to you." Yeah, everything Richard Crenna says is just, every line means so much. You better soak it all up. Now we fade to black because of AMC, and we're back with Stallone hunting boar. So now we have the answer of how would he survive in the woods for so long, with no food. We know he's got clean water because I was mentioning earlier he's next to a damn live natural spring. I want a separate movie about Stallone living in this old abandoned mine shaft or whatever. Let's stretch this out for a big long series. Just strangers out there encountering. Maybe that's what Bigfoot is. It's just John Rambo out there traipsing around in the woods. Crenna, good villain, summer rental. These are my tables, my restaurant, my town, my lobster. He tells John Candy, a table will take longer after Crenna yells at Candy. Yeah, I enjoyed me some Crenna. That's what I was just thinking about. Let me see, what else is Crenna most famous for? I remember using a movie I think called Tempest. I want to say when I was a kid. That was another on TV type thing. Movies and shows. Once again, they're messing with me on how they present these things. Let's do this the old-fashioned way. I'm assuming that's the Crenna Waiter Until Dark you're talking about, the 1967 one? Richard Crenna is best known for playing Colonel Troutman in the Rambo films, according to AI. Good for them. Richard Crenna passed away in 2003. I wasn't aware of that. I knew he'd passed away, but I didn't know when. Yeah, he's most famous for playing Colonel Troutman. Wrongfully Accused with Leslie Nielsen. That sounds about right. Sabrina, Jade, Pyromaniac Love Story, Hot Shots Part D. The Case of the Hillside Stranglers, Leviathan. There's a good Richard Crenna, Leviathan. Summer Rental. Yeah, you can't go wrong with Summer Rental. The Flamingo Kid. I remember that with Matt Dillon. The old, canasta or whatever the hell they're playing. It's like people playing cards at a summer resort. Table for Five, First Blood, The Day of the Devil, Daniel Boone, Body Heat. Oh, yeah, I do remember him being in Body Heat. That sounds about right. Yeah, that's pretty much it with Crenna. He's got a whole bunch of TV, and his career goes way back. First credit, 1950, Let's Dance. Anyways, that's been our Richard Crenna portion of the show. Gosh bless him. Hi, Greg. Great to see you. This is my favorite Rambo film. Yeah, mine too. They get cartoonish after this, although, like I say, part 4, that Rambo is pretty good. That one's ultra violent, which is part of the fun of it. It almost feels like a raid movie or something. The cop who gets his nose broken was in My Bloody Valentine the year earlier. Oh, yeah, that does sound right, the original. What movie that doesn't or does have trains would you like to see a full toy train set recreation of? This would be cool to see the whole community. Also, Friday the 13th. A full toy train set of... maybe the... in Batman Begins, they have that whole stupid Gotham monorail thing that goes through Gotham and goes under tunnels. I didn't really like it because it was too much like Spider-Man at the time. Spider-Man had already come out, and it's like, why you got a train in your movie too, Batman? But that being said, I'd probably want that Gotham monorail deal. Kevin Peter Hall played the alien in Without Warning, first role, I think. Oh, really? Dog at 7 p.m. He says, time for you to go to sleep for the night. Leave me alone. I believe that for sure. Crenna plays Fred McMurray role in the Double Indemnity 70s version. I didn't realize they made a Double Indemnity 70s version. That would make sense. I mean, isn't he play basically the same kind of role in the Body Heat? Is he Kathleen Turner's man in that? I don't remember. Also Intruders, a UFO TV movie, 1992, I think. If you were in a hot air balloon and guaranteed safe, would you rather sail over the events of this movie or Top Gun 1? I would rather sail over the events of this, because I don't think Rambo would just shoot at random passerbys in hot air balloons. Although, you never can tell. Maybe he had enough of Dennehy's crap that day. But Top Gun, yeah, I feel like... I'd get caught up being shot down by Russian MiGs. Tom Cruise would fly over the top of me upside down and give me the finger. The bird? Inverted? So now here's where Rambo is basically explaining to Troutman the same thing we got up front. It's like, I came home to a world that just didn't want me here. I left a world I didn't want to leave, and when I came home, the world didn't want me back. So now they're tracing him, and which I never even understood as a kid. It's like, how could you track walkie-talkies? I didn't know you could trace those, but apparently they can. And this is good Stallone stuff. Like I said, I think this is one of his better acting roles. A lot of people like Rocky. I think Rocky's a little sad for me. Rocky 1's too sad for me to enjoy, and Rocky 2 is basically just a lesser version of Rocky 1 with a happy ending. Like, I didn't enjoy Rocky until it got to be 3 and 4, when it was just all about, movies, like Hollywood movie galore. It's like the ultimate glitz and rhinestone, just shiny and blingy. This feels gritty and real. It's part of the charm of it. Stallone doesn't look all oiled up. He looks dirty. What would be my Mount Rushmore of action movie characters from the 80s? Oh boy, those are tough. Probably, well, you would have to go, Terminator, Rambo, John McClane, and, see, a lot of people would say Rocky, but I don't know if I would call Rocky an action movie. I call it a sports movie, and it's Stallone up there twice. That's pretty dang impressive. Same with Terminator. Can we have a bad guy be on the action movie list, or would we have to switch it up to like maybe Dutch and Predator? I think of Dutch and Predator as more of an action star than the Terminator. But that fourth one, that's toughy. Yeah, I don't know. I might. Snake Plissken. Always Snake Plissken. Let's see here. Sly, Schwarzenegger, JCVD, Norris, Rutger Hauer. Yeah, I don't know if I would have it. Maybe Lone Wolf McQuaid. I don't know. Maybe Danielson. That Karate Kid. That's a damn masterpiece as far as wonderfulness. Gareth yells, I've had enough of you and Larry taking law into your own hands. Badges, please. You're on suspension, and I'll have you as a traffic cop now. Gareth, the white Frank McCraw, cop boss. Yeah, I would like it. You two, I've had enough of you. I don't know, it was a bit Australian. It was supposed to be British, but it was a bit Australian. So now here we see sort of these dopey-ass National Guardsmen, and they're out of their element, trying to go off and fight Rambo. They're in their little ponchos and stuff. And then here's where, once again, we see them walk by, and then Rambo just pops up. He was hiding in the river the whole time. And I like that he put the headband on. There's no real reason for that, other than the fact that headbands were popular because Olivia Newton-John and Let's Get Physical. People like aerobics, I'm going to put a headband on. That was a Sylvester Stallone, the flawless impersonation. So now here Stallone finds a kid who's supposed to be helping the cops, and he doesn't kill him. He just sort of scares the hell out of him. And that's, once again, reinforcement that this is a good guy. He's not, the psychopath that he could be portrayed as. But tell that to that kid who just got his gun pulled away from him and a knife held to his throat. Paul! The underrated Mount Rushmore action characters: Remo Williams, Jake Speed, Murtaugh, FX, Byron Chap. Yeah, I love me some Sly's worst film, Rhinestone or Stop My Mom or Shoot. I enjoy Rhinestone. I hate to admit it. I saw Rhinestone in the theater. Drunkenstein, that's a jam. Really, I just like Dolly Parton. Stallone's there for flavor. Like anything Dolly Parton doing, I'll watch. So I would go with Oscar as his worst. Oscar, just because it tries to take itself... Well, it's a comedy, but it tries to be like a chance for him to act and do something other than just be like muscle guy. Because prior to that, that's his whole thing. Even Tango and Cash, he's muscle guy, but he's trying not to be muscle guy. Which is absurd, He's muscle guy for the rest of his life. Although Copland, to me, that's Stallone's probably best acting performance. I like this. I like Copland. Rocky 1 is obviously, where he got famous and where his bread and butter came from. Yeah, these cops are scared to death. I like it. I mean, did I say that? When they're in the wilderness and Rambo sets the traps in the woods. Yeah, that's what I was talking about earlier. Just that part as a kid captivated the hell out of me. Like these people searching for this dude who's off on his own, and he's, making these little traps, and they keep stumbling into him. The movie, like I say, it asks a lot of you. Normally, Rambo would be the bad guy, and we'd be rooting for the good guy, army or whatever, to get this bad guy. It's like, no, it's the other way around. But we're coming up to the, I feel the internal clock moving towards the third act. Yeah, we have, we're at the 57:30 mark. There's 35 minutes left. Here's where the police show up, and they've got Stallone cornered in his little old mine shaft. And I think this is where they blow him out, and he comes out the other end, and that's where he ends up in the city, or the town, I mean, and the destruction moves there. We move into the third act. Time to get big with our explosions, I like how both of those. I think his worst one might be "I See You." "I See You's pretty awful. I enjoy like serial killer mystery type movies like that, so I'm okay with it. He had a string there. "Avenging Angelo" came out around then. Oh boy, what was the other one he did? I'm drawing a blank on it. The remake of Get Carter. Is that what it's called? What the hell is it called? Yeah, something like that. Yeah, he just had a string there. Drive, I want to say. He did like a F1 racing movie, a few other things. In general, he had a period there, Spy Kids 3. Kind of post Copland, where he was struggling to get back to Sylvester Stallone as we knew him. And then Rambo and Rocky Balboa both came out. Of course, go back to what you're famous for when you're struggling. I always admire Stallone, though. He's just a guy. He's smart, but he's not brilliant, and he sort of turned himself into a corporation. Sylvester Stallone became a brand enough where him and Schwarzenegger and stuff could join together and make those Planet Hollywood restaurants that were popular for a while. So now here we see the National Guard guys that were out here trying to help catch Rambo. By the way, they blew up the mine that Rambo was in, but Rambo's going to get out, and then the real stuff's going to go down. But right now, these morons think he's dead, so they're celebrating and they're taking pictures like they're at the sands of Iwo Jima and stuff. So now they're arguing over who's going to find the body. And like I say, you could feel the third act starting. Like, okay, well, we've met Rambo. We've seen everything goes down. He breaks out of jail. Now he's spent this last however long hour in the woods. And now it's time for us to wrap this up and get to the bottom of where we're going. So yeah, sure enough, there's Rambo. We went to a fade to black for AMC, and we're back with the Rambo in the mine shaft holding up a match, trying to figure out where the hell he's at. I like all this. It's black screen, and most of it's done with sound effects. We hear him tear a piece of cloth off his shirt to make a torch. This is one of the most realistic torches in movie history. Most movies will have you believe you could just pick up any old stick and light the end on fire and you got a quality torch. And it's like, in real life, making a torch is real hard. Whatever you set on fire at the end is going to burn and drip on your hand. Whatever you set on fire at the end of the torch is going to burn out and your torch is going to go out. You have to put some sort of fluid on it. Like in a movie, you just grab any old stick and it's a torch. For the rest of the movie, you're fine. Let's see here. If they went with the original ending, there wouldn't be any sequels. Yeah, we had talked about that before, that the original ending, whether the two different versions of the ending, both had Rambo dying off. Whether you want it to be that Rambo was a sad character that had to, ended up getting shot and needed to be put out of his misery, or he's, kind of this monster that Troutman has to come and take care of. You created this monster, you kill it. Either way, it didn't do well with test audiences. Nobody liked that ending. Because you spend all movie, you see this dude thrown into a situation he doesn't deserve, and then he fights his way out. But then when he fights his way out, he does so much bad on the fight out that it's, questionable whether or not he's can be considered a good guy. I mean, he blows up a whole town. Once again, Troutman looking smug and crispy. Good for you. I hope to be evolving into the smug and crispy age of my life soon. Just walk around. Rank best to least, specialist, over the top, daylight. Yeah, let's go ahead and do the films of Sylvester Stallone here and see. Let's see, Sly Stallone. I wonder how many movies he's actually done at this point. This is one of the few times I couldn't tell you. I bet he's done 200. Let's see. Sylvester Stallone, he's only been in 93, but he has 9 upcoming movies, so he'll be over 100, maybe by the time you folks are here watching this on the replay. Oh yeah, I forget about The Expendables. That's kind of his baby too. He's brilliant for that. Stallone's first movie was in 1969, Square Root. Never heard of it. He was uncredited in MASH in 1970. I wasn't aware of that. He's Soldier Sitting at Camp Table. And then in 1970, he was in The Party at Kitty and Studs, infamously a porno film. Stallone was struggling to get going in his career, decided to end up being in this sort of loose porno. At the time, porn was different than it is now or whatever. There was more of an attempt, with the Debbie Does Dallas and all of that stuff, Behind the Green Door, and there was a lot of that type of Russ Meyer content. So Stallone got mixed up in that and was in Party at Kitty and Studs. He was in Bananas, Rebel, Lords of Flatbush in 74. I think that's probably the first thing I ever saw him in. He played Frank Nitti in the Capone movie in 75. Death Race 2000 in 75 also. That's one of probably my first times I really thought Stallone was cool. Kojak, Cannonball, Rocky in 76, Fist in 78, Paradise Alley 78, Rocky 2, 79, Nighthawks 81. So basically Rocky 3 came out before this. I thought it might have came out after, but yeah, it was released before it. So Rocky 3, then First Blood, and Staying Alive. I remember that. He has a small cameo part because he directed it. Then Rhinestone, Rambo, First Blood Part 2, Rocky 4, Cobra. Cobra's pretty awesome. We'll be watching Cobra on the channel sometime because there's a lot to talk about with Cobra. Rambo 3, Lockup. Lockup's kind of a classic if you're into prison movies, and same type of deal as this. The bad guy authority figures are holding somebody down and they got to cool hand Luke their way out of the situation. But Lockup's pretty good. Tango and Cash, I'm a big Kurt Russell mark. So here Stallone is trying to find his way out of the cave, and he's digging, he's kind of got to go through these weird tunnels, and he goes through some water, and all these rats get on him. And that's a good action beat thing. Like I often talk about with movies like this, there needs to be little beats of action so the audience doesn't get bored. Like, oh, I thought this was supposed to be an action movie. It's been talking for 20 minutes. So there, Stallone crawling through this old dirty river and getting a bunch of rats on him. That's a good little action scene. Tango and Cash, Rocky 5, Oscar, brutal. Stop or My Mom Will Shoot, which is terrible but has a charm. Cliffhanger, also terrible but has a charm. Now, Cliffhanger is awful, but it's the good kind of awful. Like, it's so cheesy and heavy, over the top, ridiculous that it's just a mile a minute and fun fest. It's like an early version of Fast and the Furious or something. The movie knows it's ridiculous and it leans into being ridiculous. After Cliffhanger, he did Demolition Man. Demolition Man's pretty awesome. I've done that on the channel before. There's a commentary track for that in my archives. The Specialist. Specialist is the hardest movie for a person with a lisp to say. The Spethalith with the Theron Thone and Sylvester Stallone. So shout out to the Spethalith. After the Spethalith comes Judge Dredd. That was a bit of a flop, although it's found an audience. It's a bit of a cult classic. But at the time, it was considered like ultimate awful. But we're at the point now where people look back on it fondly. Assassins, I enjoy Assassins. Him and Banderas as two killers facing off against each other. Daylight, kind of your run-of-the-mill action yarn sort of thing, escape movie. It's a weird cousin to Cliffhanger. Copland, that's when, that's Stallone, my favorite Stallone, I would say. Ants, Get Carter, the remake. The Get Carter remake I like more than most, but it's still not very good. There's Driven, Detox, that's the other one Stacey was talking about. It's also known as ICU. It's like some people, it tries to be like The Thing, almost. Like it's a bunch of people in a snowy, secluded area, and then a murder mystery kind of thing breaks out. But it's all right. It's not. I don't hate it as much as most people, but yeah, it's not very good at all. Spy Kids 3: Game Over. That whole thing's like a 3D CGI type movie, so Stallone probably got to come in and shoot out in a day. Rocky Balboa. That was in 2006, and that to me was the comeback of the franchise. After Rocky V, which was just terrible, Rocky Balboa was a nice surprise. And then Rambo in 2008, same deal. After Rambo kind of fizzling out after the cartoon and everything, there wasn't much to mine out of the Rambo franchise, so their ability to make something good with that movie surprised me. I enjoyed it. And then The Expendables. The Expendables, actually, I take credit for in a weird way. I was running video stores at the time when The Expendables got greenlit. And I would see all these different action stars movies come out and sit on the shelf. And they'd be, Dolph Lundgren, Seagal, Van Damme, just a variety of low-level action stars. But the movies themselves were very middling. Like, there was an audience for them, but the movies themselves were crap. So I kept saying to people who would want to talk action movies with me, they need to make like an old Dirty Dozen or a Magnificent Seven style type action movie where you take all the action heroes. I'd be interested in seeing an action movie with Chuck Norris and Arnold Schwarzenegger and Van Damme. And people were like, oh, that'd be crazy. Can you imagine? And then sure enough, that's what The Expendables did. And it's brilliant because when you have a big cast like that, you can shoot Chuck Norris out in 4 days. You can shoot Schwarzenegger out in an afternoon. You can shoot whoever else, Jason Statham stuff in like a morning. Let's see. I always liked Over the Top as much hate as it gets. Over the Top is absurd, but that's another one like Cliffhanger, where if you step back and look at a lot of what's going on, it's hard to like. But if you just sort of go for the ride, this whole thing with this dude and his estranged son traveling across the country, hustling people with arm wrestling contests. And that kid is like king, precocious sporkhead. Like that whole movie, you hate the kid, and at the end, you're like supposed to root for him. Come on now, I've been spending this whole movie hating this kid. Stallone and Robert Altman would have been a fun combo, right? The MASH stuff. Shave or at least make it a flat bush. Dope! Cobra tells gang member near his car, straighten up your act, and rips chain from him. Boss says you have attitude problem. Yeah, it's just a little one. Yeah, Stallone and Cobra is just the classic, like, overdone lone wolf cop. Like he does what he wants. He parks where he wants. He follows no orders. He's Dirty Harry turned up to 11. The pizza and the scissors, nice. See, people actually. I remember the first time I saw that. I thought it was absurd too. It's kind of funny, like, oh, this guy's just so disorganized in his real life. Everything beyond being a cop is just too much for him. And then I've heard that. Actually, if you don't have a pizza cutter, the best way to cut a pizza is probably scissors because it's so hard to cut through with a knife, So shout out to Cobra for teaching me if you don't have a pizza cutter, find the cleanest pair of scissors you can. So now Rambo has stolen one of these military vehicles from the stupid National Guardsmen. Basically everybody in this movie, cops, National Guard, whoever, they're all dumb. The only one who's not stupid is Troutman. Because he told them they're all stupid. So Stallone just sort of blends in with the rest of the army guys. So now what? One of these cops figures out that Stallone's hijacked the truck. I don't remember this scene. So now we've got a car chase. Yeah, I totally don't remember this part. I mean, I know Stallone ends up back in the town, but I didn't recall this little bit of business here in between forest and town. Yeah, they're trying to shoot out his tires. What's he going to do? Swerve and run him off the road and kill him? And okay, yeah, he's trying to. Wow, a movie I've seen 8 times, but you get a legitimate reaction shot to because I don't remember any of this. But we talked about action beats. You know, he just got out of the cave. We got to have something happen. Stallone with the wide-eyed Keanu Reeves and Speed look, like he can't believe he's got this going on. It's like, dude, you already fought a guy in a helicopter. You murdered some police. You've killed a dog. Why are you shocked you're in a car race? Yep, there you go. Okay, so yeah, hilarious. He bumps the cop car and it swerves off and slams into. It looked like a VW Bug, punch bug, no punchback, but it must have been a Pinto because the thing just exploded the second the car hit it. Like it was almost comical. Like as soon as the police car touched it. All right, now they've got a barricade so Stallone can't get back into town. I remember none of this. But he's just going to barrel his way through. Shout out to James Garner's Tank, if you've ever seen that one. Very similar movie. James Garner and C. Thomas Howell fighting the local law in a tank. Eat your pizza with scissors for watch party for Cobra, please. I will. I think I will. I'll go buy new scissors. Toothpicks too, right? For a while, I was a smoker. When I quit smoking, I used toothpicks for a long time to get rid of them. The wooden match is the key. That's the Cobra one, the wooden match. You got that? Now you can take it, strike it on somebody. I'd like the real story why Christopher Walken left the set of Cliffhanger and John Lithgow replaced him. I'd never heard that. I'm assuming because they probably wouldn't let Christopher Walken dance. I like Lithgow in that. That Lithgow's had a good run then. He was also in, what's the other one? The one, Ricochet, with Denzel, where he ruins Denzel's life. I love that one. Lithgow's a good bad guy, which is strange because I always think of him as like this kind of smiley, chubby-cheeked, friendly fellow from Third Rock from the Sun. But instead, yeah, when he plays a bad guy, he's scary. Okay, so yeah, here's where the explosion starts, and you can even see that's absurd. He takes the military vehicle, the big truck he stole, the troop transport. I think I had that G.I. Joe vehicle. And he drove it into a gas station and then basically set fire to the gas station and the truck and blowing up a huge, crater into the side of the town. And Dennehy's just got this look like, oh boy, everybody else in town's running to stop the fire and help and everything, but no, poor Dennehy knows we're in trouble. And here's where Stallone really sets the bar for action craziness. He busts out an M60. It's a tank. It's a machine gun generally used in a helicopter. My dad apparently said he used them when he was in the Army. But he said that he didn't think there was any way one guy could carry it around because you need a second guy to feed bullets. So every time he saw this, he thought it was absurd. He's like, there's no way one person could carry around an M60 and shoot at everything. The power of the gun alone would knock him over. But Rambo does it because he's Rambo. So here Troutman is announcing that there's what is his name? Teasel? Sheriff Will Teasel, yeah, Brian Dennehy. Dennehy announces that there's a public curfew. And I like the town now because we've seen it in the afternoon and we kind of see the busy sidewalks and stuff. It's a nice little, 5,000, 10,000 people town. They got a Dairy Queen and a Shell. As the man in Roadhouse said, Kmart's coming here because of me. I don't know. I'm not a guy who wants to own a lot of movie props, but I would take Richard Crenna's beret from First Blood. I'd put that in a glass case. That'd be a good movie prop to have. I was in the market from Cobra once. I expected a maniacal shooter and sly with matchstick mouth. You were in that market from Cobra once? You were in a live shooting situation one time? I often, because of Cobra, that was one of the first times I ever thought of like an active shooter situation, because that wasn't a thing when I was a kid. Nowadays, well, knock on wood, we haven't had one in a while, but for a while there, that was the thing that was constantly going on. So there's a pretty awesome scene. Stallone is out skulking around the alleyways of this small town, and we see him come around a corner as Troutman is explaining to Teasel that, you're going to get your ass kicked. There's only one man in this room that's got half a chance. That's not because he's better. I'm better than his. That's because he trusts me. See, I'm the closest thing that man has to a father, and I may be the only hope you have. And Dennehy just looks at him like, what the hell's wrong with you? And I like this power struggle, because Dennehy, on one hand, he thinks he's the good guy, which is key for any good villain. You want to write your villains to think that they're in the right in what they're doing. The motivations of your bad guy should seem reasonable, at least to the bad guy. And that's how this is. He thinks he's the lawman in a cowboy movie protecting it from Black Bart, not realizing it was his antics that caused Black Bart. Does the justice system, in fact, cause crime? Discuss amongst yourselves. I'm glad to see you. Commando versus Rambo First Blood Part 2. I would probably go Commando. I don't know, Rambo First Blood, he's such a superhero, ridiculous action character. He seems like almost like Terminator. As where Dutch feels a little more human. He's pretty cold, his whole cigar chewing thing. But I would probably go with Dutch. Glad to see you. Great streams. You always fun, Mayor and Sean, rest, etc. Exactly. Commando, I love that one. Yeah, Commando's fantastic. As far as big, ridiculous, over-the-top 80s action, that might be the king. Because most other movies, like Predator has a little bit of sci-fi, Most Dangerous Game kind of stuff going on with it. Commando is just straight, they messed with the wrong guy and he's going to blow up everything because of it. This is an awesome shot. Here's Dennehy up on the roof of the police station with an M16. And he's trying to, snipe Rambo. So we're doing a pan around town as he walks around up there trying to see if he can spot Rambo. And there's a billboard for the army right behind the police station. Accident? I think not. And apparently it's maybe Christmas time when this is going on, because a bunch of the stores have Christmas lights all over them. So add this to your secret Christmas action movie list with, they're the windows. I'll say season to be jolly and stuff. So add this to Invasion USA, Lethal Weapon, Die Hard, Last Action Hero, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. Add that to the list of Christmas movies that aren't really Christmas movies, even though they are Christmas movies. Flip switch mentally. I know, right? Anytime you're doing like arm wrestling anybody, the first thing you do, right? That's how you go. Sorry. Can't mess up my America hat. Speaking of ridiculous articles of clothing, there are now 24 designs available at the Night Owl Movie Talk merch store. You can get yourself a t-shirt, long sleeve, hoodie, socks, coffee cup, stickers. All available, link in the description. I'm partial to that Rowdy Piper / Batman one, although the Misfits logo has always been classic. Basically, I have a bunch of legally actionable designs that look like things you already know, but are fun and have their own parody twist. Protected under fair use. So now here Stallone has broken into the hunting store, and because what you want is Stallone to have a bunch of knives and stuff. And he's pouring gunpowder and everything all over the place. He's going to blow this whole damn town up and to kill everybody and everything. He's covered in bandoliers all over with looks like dude who's like, batches? We don't need no stinking batches. So there he shoots the gunpowder and it just blows up this whole damn place. Once again, we're going to get the wide shot of the city where it's going to look extra cool to see one little small building on fire inside of a whole town. Some of the shots aren't traditional action shots, and that's what makes it feel more real. this ending doesn't feel like glitzy glamour, like I say, Fast and the Furious. It doesn't feel plastic. It feels real. There's a nut out here with a gun, and there's a nut up on the roof with a gun. Yeah, I never noticed how much Christmas was in this. This whole town is at Christmas time. I mean, there's snow all over the mountains, but when he goes and sees Delmar's mom, it didn't feel like Christmas time. Why wasn't she wearing a Santa hat? All right, so Dennehy head pops up on the roof of the sheriff's station, and Rambo sees it, and he's on his way there to destroy everything. We're at the 1:22:24 mark. There's 11 minutes left in the film. Rambo is destroying the police station with the M60. You know, this, like I say, there's symbolism in this movie. Rambo is supposed to be kind of the average Joe, and Brian Dennehy and the police are supposed to represent the man, you know. So it's the lone individual guy fighting back against the system. Or it's also just some crazed vet with a machine gun. Both are good. Let me see here. I want a team-up movie of Cobra character and the Rambo character and John Matrix and T-1000 all team up. The new Fantastic Four. I would actually take that. I love Ricochet, where they take books and make armor. Yeah, and the prison fight scene at the beginning, they take the phone books, they tape them all up, and that's super cool. Ricochet's wild. Like when he drugs Denzel and has a hooker have sex with him and then gives him syphilis, like, that's cold-blooded right there, to give your enemy, like, mess up his home life and stuff. Yeah, Ricochet's a classic bad guy, awesome one. I like John Lithgow in that one. Sorry, now we're down to the quiet. This is like the end of Gremlins. It feels like we're in this small town, all the lights are out. We're just in the shadows, waiting for conflict. Jesse Ventura has a small role in Ricochet. Yeah, isn't he one of the police dudes? Or no, he's one of Lithgow's baddies, right? Or is he one of the white supremacists in prison? Great film. It was fun to go to commando filming locations and recreate the very beginning scenes in the ice cream park, deer feeding, carrying the lumber, car chase downhill. You got to go there? That's awesome. Yeah, where when they're doing the classic ice cream cone on the nose bit. Trash shooting scene, yeah. Arnold carries a whole tree on his shoulder, right? An Austrian oak. He's the Austrian oak. Missing in Action is a good, also with Norris. Yeah, I felt like Missing in Action was kind of a ripoff of the Rambo character, but that was arguably Chuck Norris's biggest hit. You know, my favorite Norris is Lone Wolf McQuade or The Octagon or some of those movies, but the Missing in Action films were kind of his biggest crossover movies, I should say. And yeah, those are basically based on the Rambo character. Like I say, in the 70s there was a lot of anti-Vietnam War movies, and in the 80s there was a lot of patriotism, Cold War, be proud of America stuff. And in those movies they reference Vietnam and going back and getting the POWs. So yeah, and Rambo 2 and then Missing in Action 1, and what is it? 1 is where he's captured and then he goes back and gets him in part 2. I always get confused at the order of Missing in Action because they filmed them together, and then I think part 2 was supposed to be part 1, but they decided part 2 was the stronger one and released it first or some crap like that. Homeboy Joe Zito. Yes, Christmas action film. Yeah, exactly. Cobra was during Christmas too. I didn't know that. I get caught up in the whole robot film, like photography session, modeling session. So I Come in Peace was during Christmas. I didn't know that. Angel, what's it called? Angel of Death or whatever it's called. Rambo's actions would be considered terrorism today. Exactly. That's what I mean. If you heard about this through the news, it would be dude went nuts, destroyed a town, killed a bunch of cops. But when you watch it from this point of view, it's like a real Rashomon type deal. Like I mentioned, I think this movie would benefit from a Tarantino style plot structure. Start off with these cops hunting this lunatic in the woods, and then flash back to the beginning, and we see that actually he's not the bad guy, he's the good guy. So here's where Stallone gives his big soliloquy, like I mentioned. Him and Troutman are alone, and he's explaining to him, about how they sprayed Agent Orange on him, and he went to go see this dude, and he's dead, and he came out, he got out of the plane, and they called him a baby killer, and Stallone just delivers the whole thing, like crying and having a breakdown. Super good acting in this. He hasn't had much chance to talk and ruin it until now. And you're like, oh, maybe he doesn't talk much because he's kind of stupid. And he is, which is what Rambo is supposed to be, which is dumb why in the second and third ones he's like stoic genius. In real life, anyways, yeah, for sure. Dirty Harry versus Death Wish. Yeah, that's another classic. In the 70s, right around after Watergate and the Vietnam War and stuff, there was real bad crime rate. Like especially in the late 70s and early 80s, there was real high periods of crime, which often happens after wars and political turmoil and stuff. So some people even say the crime rate went up because that's before we took the lead out of the gasoline. Like apparently lead paint and other lead products will make people violent, and supposedly, I don't know if it's a wives' tale or what, urban legend, but supposedly back before the early 80s there was lead in the gas, and when they put unleaded gas available for everybody, the crime rate went down because people were supposedly less crazy. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what I've heard. But yeah, the crime rate got to be real big. So films like Dirty Harry, Death Wish, these vigilante movies where, they messed with the wrong guy and he's going to take vengeance on them all. So here's the part where Stallone is just complete breakdown. Veins bulging in every direction, tears pouring out of his eyes. He barely even, you can't even understand him. He's talking about the dude blew up and he's got his legs all over. Like, where's his legs? Yeah, I feel like this little 5 minutes here at the end of this movie is stronger acting than either of the first two Rocky movies. Well, this came after the part 3, so I guess any of the first 3 Rocky movies. I don't know, when Adrian's in the hospital in part 2, he gets to act a little bit, but so here's Stallone is just crying like a baby, and he reaches up and Troutman treats him like a father, hugs him. And you can see Troutman's uncomfortable with being affectionate and kind. Like he doesn't know how to hug. He's like, hi, ew. Let me see here. Crime rates and murder rates soared with MK Ultra testing and COINTEL MK Ultra. Like I say, they went up, spiked real heavily in the 70s and early 80s, and then later on they started to go back down. I'd love a new Dirty Harry movie right now, even at his age. Clint in general, he's awesome. You can't go wrong with Clint. So this movie has such a weird ending though, without him dying. Instead, he's got his handcuffs on and Troutman leads him out, but he's got the big rainy overcoat over the top of him to kind of hide the handcuffs. So he almost gets dignity. And he walks by Dennehy, and then him and Teasel look at each other, and there's all this press. And there was a fade to black and a quick fade back in on the same scene. AMC, you're killing me. And there's the credits as he walks away. And yeah, I don't know, he gets kind of I guess symbolically, it's almost like he's welcomed back home, like America accepts him again. But I don't know. And there's the freeze frame. Just ends on him looking away, and Crenna looking at him as the yellow title cards roll up the side. The AMC's You Might Also Like was relatively ridiculous. Let me see if you gonna let me continue watching? No, they will not. All right, yeah. So the things they recommended as like this were kind of ridiculous. Monty Python and some other stuff. What would you say is like this if you had to? If you liked Rambo 1, you may also like. We mentioned the missing in action movies 1 and 2, The Deer Hunter. I guess Apocalypse Now, but not really. Apocalypse Now is something different. What was it called? I think it's called Coming Home. Is that what it's called? Like Jane Fonda and Bruce Dern, maybe? I don't know. But anyways, this is a strange movie that kind of gives a political, artistic stance on the Vietnam War and all the problems it caused. And then the movie itself and the character ends up evolving into the symbol for patriotism and might as well just be this damn eagle. But Nevertheless, it is a fantastic movie, and every time I watch it, I enjoy it. There, once again, that is true here. Terrific to watch again. Wish Dobermans lived. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The dead dog hurts. Last of the Finest is similar. I wasn't familiar with Last of the Finest. I'd have to check that one out. Maybe also Uncommon Valor. Check out Southern Comfort. See, what they need to do is make like an Aliens Southern Comfort type movie. That's what I've been wanting them to do with Friday the 13th forever. It's like send the National Guard to go get Jason and then have a bunch of soldiers traipsing around in the woods getting murdered like Rambo style. I like that movie. But I also like you, and I thank you for joining me. Our friend Sarah was here. Anthony Chabot wasn't here. Let's check on him and make sure he's okay. But Stacy was here. Bones was here. Patrick was here. All sorts of friends have dropped by and said hello. Greg Brewer, I appreciate you. Ben Grimm up late. He works nights. But overall, I enjoyed watching this with current state of the world and a lot of the warring and fighting going on. I thought this was it was important to check out. And on top of that, I'm always in the mood to watch First Blood. It's amazing. So I thank you for joining me. I hope you will join me again some other time. If you would like to watch other shows like this, there are currently, I believe, 124 commentaries, 97 of them or 98 of them solely on my channel. To watch in the Night Owl catalog or also available on your favorite podcast provider. Other than that, get yourself a shirt, buy something from the registry, give me some money through PayPal. I like free money. Other than that, I thank you for joining me and hanging out tonight and watching this. And hopefully I'll be back soon. I am expecting a baby that should be here anytime. But barring her popping in anywhere, I'll probably get another of these in before I have to go into dad mode for a good month. But I appreciate y'all being here. Greg says take care, and I think he's summed it up perfectly. You take care as well, Greg. Have a good one, guys. I love and appreciate you so much. I wish all of you green grass and high tides forever. Adios, amigos.